payments safe, sponsored by Paymerang. I'm Victoria Schaefer, Senior Membership Manager at HFTP. And before we begin, I'd like to go over a few items about the platform and today's webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded. I'm just making sure that we are on. Okay. And webinars are educational discussions offered in a non-sales environment. Product pitches through the chat feature are not allowed. We will post HFTP's antitrust statement in the chat. There's a speaker view option on the Zoom platform if you wish to see the slides full screen. If you are collecting continuing education credits today, please note that you will need to self-report your credit for this webinar through your HFTP account. In this session, we will explore how electronic payments such as virtual cards and ACH transactions provide greater protections than paper checks, mitigating the risk of payment fraud. Today's speaker, John Zotke, is Vice President of Business Development and Director of Sales for Paymerang, a fintech automation company located in Richmond, Virginia. He oversees a team of outside and inside sales professionals and directs the day-to-day activities to deliver rapid growth. His goal is to drive a world-class sales organization that is able to connect with financial professionals in a diverse set of industry verticals and help them benefit from Paymerang's transformative finance automation solutions. John spent the last 3 years in an outside sales role with Paymerang, managing the company's K-12 education and financial institution verticals. He has over 15 years of sales experience from companies big and small, like Ricoh, Snag, and the Brinks Company. A highly motivated and energetic leader, John loves coaching and mentoring others, both in the office and outside on the lacrosse field. We are so excited to have Paymerang and John with us today, and I now hand this webinar over to you, John.
Great, thanks, Victoria. I don't know who wrote that, but that was awful. I'm just kidding. That was.
I was going to say, not me.
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you all may be. We appreciate you taking some time to jump online and listen to the webinar. Are your business payments safe? Thank you for the great introduction there, Victoria. Just to kind of go through our agenda for today, we're going to talk about a couple different points. One, key threats that are going on today within payment fraud. Talk about 4 layers of protection, some practical steps you can take, and then at the very end, I'll give you a brief 30-second intro into Paymerang. We do have some poll questions sprinkled in, and we'll go ahead and start with our first poll question. How does your organization make payments today? Mostly checks, some ACH, mostly checks and ACH, some credit card and other.
So we have our answers rolling in. I will end the polling in just a few seconds. Looks like we're winding down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And sharing the results now.
Excellent. So majority of folks here, 80%, doing a bunch of different methods. And we're starting to see that trend, especially in a COVID environment where people aren't in the office to print, sign stuff and mail out checks, but also on the receiving side, being able to receive them and get them processed. So great information there. Thank you. So let's start in here with our first topic. What are some of the key threats of payment fraud? When what's happening today? Is this just an internal headache? How do we stop this from happening? Check fraud, I will tell you, is still enormous. It's still number 1. Great example for you. We have a client who, based in New Jersey, they got a phone call from the San Diego Airport Police, and someone was trying to go through security with 500 blank fake checks from that client. Obviously did not have the authority to have those. So check fraud is still enormous. However, ACH credit card fraud is on the rise. especially today in this COVID environment, there is more and more ACH happening. And we're going to take a look at some specific examples here to kind of start off. So here's three different ones. You know, Washington's unemployment fraud may have hit up to 650 million. They're only able to recover about 330. Fraudsters exploit COVID-19 to scam 5.6 million from their victims. Chester postal worker pleads guilty to $75,000 check theft scheme. So these things are definitely out there. It happens all of the time. And when you look at the statistics, okay, according to AFP in a 2020 survey, 81% of organizations were targets of payments fraud in 2019. My guess in 2020, that number is going to be significantly higher. The biggest attempt is still check fraud, okay? Don't get me wrong. Positive pay is super important. We'll talk more about that. But most often, the reported source of this payment fraud are attacks being through a business email compromise. And again, I'll give you a couple of examples here, real world that we have seen as within our organization. We had a situation recently where one of our clients had forwarded us an email from a vendor that was asking to change banking information. They sent it to us. We were taking a look at it, going through our checkpoints, found that it was a fraudster just based on the email address, the wording, everything that was going on there. We used that opportunity to shut down a fraud ring. In fact, we sent them a fake ACH form. They sent it back. We sent it off to the FBI. And now all of those accounts are now frozen from that person. We had another situation where clients sent us a payment for a fraudster, had called, gotten all of their copier accounts at all their different locations, sent a fake invoice with banking information. Client forwarded on to us to pay. Through our research, we found that it was a fraudster, Better Business rating of an F. We sent it back, asked them to double check. Sure enough, it was not their copier company. So these things are happening all the time. The biggest takeaway here that we'll talk about is education of your team, what to look for. And there's really some great softwares out there. We use a company by the name of KnowBefore that provides our training for fraud. And we certainly we certainly encourage you all to do the same for your team. Fraudsters are getting better and better, smarter and smarter. And so being able to know what to look for, what's happening, will help protect your organization. We'll go through here, take another quick poll. What's the biggest security threat to your business? What have you potentially seen? Phishing, business email compromise, malware, distributed denial of service, storing data, password attacks, or ransomware. So Victoria, if you can turn that on for us.
Okay, looks like we are ending in 3, 2, 1. Okay, sharing results.
Phishing, yeah, you see the top two there, phishing, business email compromise. Those, no surprise, those are the highest ones there. I am a little surprised at the ransomware because we have seen a number there coming up, and some specific examples I won't get into today, but that is coming. But phishing, business email compromise are around the same platform there, and certainly very, very important. So let's Let's talk about a couple different examples. First example here, PayPal service, 30.8 million. They are an international money transfer organization out in California. They had a situation where spoofed emails sent to the company's finance department resulted in the transfer of $30.8 million. CFO resigned, audit committee authorized an independent investigation of outside advisors. They've now implemented a whole bunch of different internal procedures. Federal law enforcement authorities were involved. Company stock dropped by 14%, which equated out to about $31 million. So to them, this was almost a $61 million hit. The second one here, Ubiquity, 46.7 million. Again, this was a wireless technology company based in California. Same thing, attack targeting the company finances, involved both employee and executive impersonation. In this case, a lot of money going out the door. And then example 3, Mattel. We all know Mattel. I've 3 kids myself. I'm very familiar with Mattel. They had a situation, a $3 million phishing scheme come through. Cyber attacks, conducted thorough research before on the senior staff members, allowing them to understand the hierarchy, payment patterns, and they were able to lure over $3 million to a bank in China. FBI again was involved. Funds were returned, which is great. That doesn't always happen, but that specific bank is infamous for having these types of accounts set up. So a bunch of different examples. Fraud is everywhere. I can't stress that enough. So let's take a look here now and move over into 4 layers of protection that are available for you. One, and we'll dive into each of these independently, but first protect the payment. And we'll talk about ways to do that. Securing your operations, fortifying your network, and locking down your compliance. So we'll go over on the next 4 slides here, 16 different safeguards across these 4 layers that can help you protect. First, protecting of the payment. If you are cutting checks, you have to have positive pay. If you're not using positive pay today, go talk to your bank. What this allows is when you cut checks, you send a file to your bank that tells them who and how much. As long as the data matches, the bank can process that check. If everything doesn't match, the bank won't process that check and you won't be held liable for it. But it is very important that you have this service in place to be able to help protect your checks. Again, check fraud is still #1 in fraudulent payments. Option 2, use virtual cards. There are a lot of folks who said that they use their corporate credit cards. I actually would say don't do that. You have open line credit cards you're giving, whether it's card on file, smiling and dialing for dollars, as I like to call it. It's not efficient, and you're giving open line credit card numbers to someone on the other end of the phone that you don't know. Virtual cards will allow you to limit that exposure by putting only the amount of payment that is going for that specific transaction. So use those virtual cards, whether it's Visa, Master, whomever it may be. It's a great way. You still are able to see those rewards. It's still a very big time sucker, but you're able to see those rewards and you're keeping the payment secure. For ACH, using those payments through an established network is great. What I will tell you, especially today in the construction world, fraud is at an all-time high. We were recently talking to the FBI based on the story I gave you earlier, and they said right now construction companies are being targeted to the extreme by fraudsters because a lot of times those bids are online. the dollar amounts online, social media, sharing that information. So, with ACH, you want to make sure that you are verifying. Verify, verify, verify. When you're calling that vendor to set up an ACH payment with them, give them an invoice number, ask them for the amount, phone number, email address. Make sure the email address is a business email, right? But collect all that information and, of course, store it in a very sensitive, encrypted area. And then finally, the procedures that you want to go through, and I've touched on some of these, right? Make sure that you are validating. Here at Paymerang, we have a trifold sitting on everybody's desk that just says validate on it. And it's super important. Again, look at emails. Okay, how's the grammar in the emails? Are these people you usually talk to? If you're unsure, pick up the phone and call the vendor with the number you have on file. Is this an employee? But validation is super, super important as you're going through and collecting that information. Again, we don't get paid by them, but KnowBe4 has some great, great trainings on what to look for, especially when it comes to phishing and business email compromise. As we move on here to securing the operations, you want to make sure you have a secure environment where all the data can be protected. Obviously, people are working in remote situations today. Where they are working, is it a secure environment? Are they sitting in a Starbucks, or are they at home at their dining table? Are they going over Wi-Fi? Are they plugged in via an Ethernet cable? Are they using a VPN? Are they not? These are all things that you want to take a look at, clean desk policies, and really keep things secure. Training we've talked about, it can't be a one and done annual type piece. You need to be continuously talking to your team, your finance team, about this situation. Every day it changes. And so by continually giving them refresher courses throughout would be great. One thing I didn't ask on the secure, or didn't say on the secure environment, my recommendation, don't send the check printer home with your AP person and tell them to go ahead and print and cut checks at home. Not a great idea. Fraud detection, we've talked about. Have your policies in place. Know the steps that you want to go through. Validate. Any changes that come in, again, validate. If you've been paying someone via ACH and all of a sudden you get an email or a phone call saying, hey, please change my banking information, here it is. Make sure you're validating, okay? Fraudsters are gonna act stupid. They're gonna act hastily. They're gonna be aggressive, okay? Or you're gonna have the bouncer may not get the right email from you or the right answer from you, so they're gonna hang up, call back in, and hope they get somebody else, okay? So make sure you have that internal communication going. And then finally on the procedures, again, what's your policy? What's your validation? What are those steps you want to go through? What are your multiple approval processes, payment limits, job rotation, cross-training, payment team members? Really make sure they have access to what they're supposed to have and not everything else. But again, it's all about validation and putting those policies and procedures in place. Fortify the network, our third way here. Endpoint production. Again, ensure that only safe and trusted software is running. Put up email defenses. We use a program called Barracuda. Frustrates me sometimes to no end because I get emails blocked that I've already emailed this person 3 times, but something is just telling our system it's not a clean email. You want to go through and make sure that you are doing that. We've turned on a phishing button in our Outlook. So if something comes in that just looks fishy to me, I can click that button, goes to our IT department. They're able to take a look at the email in a safe environment. If it is clean, it is appropriate, they can send it back to me, or we can quarantine it. Know what your vulnerability is. right? We've talked through some of the examples there where people were hacked into. Understand that vulnerability management program, go through it with regular testing, software patching, make sure you're always using the latest up-to-date management. I don't think anyone uses it anymore. Don't use Internet Explorer. It's not supported by Microsoft anymore. It's not getting the security patches that is needed. Things of that nature are all pieces that you want to make sure that you're going through. Again, when people aren't in the office, use VPN, enable multi-factor authentication to log into your appropriate layers of the systems. Those are all key pieces here that you can do. Put policies in place, right? So for our employees, when they're working from home, they have to send us a picture of their workspace, so we know that they're in a nice, clean environment. They're hooked up via Ethernet cable through our VPN, and we don't have to worry about that. And then finally, lock down the compliance. You see a couple different pieces here. Nacha, if you're doing ACH, it's highly recommended. If you're doing that in-house, process payments using the ACH network, which maintains the highest level of safety and security for its participants. Go through an audit. Have an ACH auditor come in. Are you doing things correctly? Are you storing things correctly? Is everything safe and secure? It's a book about yay thick and a lot of information in it. We go through that audit every year, and it's super important. On the card side, PCI compliance. Make sure that when you are paying cards, they're processed, they're stored where there's a security standard mandated by the PCI, payment card industry. That has to be attested. Again, another compliance piece that we go through really to make sure that cardholder data is maintained in a secure environment accordingly. And then finally, OFAC. Not sure how many folks have heard of OFAC before. It is a U.S. Department of the Treasury run program. Long story short, they are a government watch list of companies they suspect, among other things, of funding terrorists and money laundering. You don't want to pay vendors on that. It's a huge, huge reputational risk, as well as a huge financial risk. Fines start at $500,000. So to reduce that likelihood of payments being sent to individuals or organizations determined to be threats to our country. And so you can go through, you can get a copy of that sanction list, take a look at your payments, and make sure that you're not paying any of those vendors. Again, the last thing you want to do is be stuck on the news with your organization because you paid someone on that OFAC watch list. It's a huge reputational risk. A lot of information, but with these 16 safeguards in place, you will be better prepared to crush that payment fraud risk because it's only getting bigger and bigger as we go along. Go ahead and take another poll here. After hearing everything we just talked about, are you 100% confident your payments are fully protected?
Okay, so they're dwindling down. So get your answers in. 3, 2, 1. The results.
67% say no, 33% say yes. It's about what I expected to see. You know, because again, the threats are very real for you out there. So as we talk about practical next steps, really what we're hoping that you all take away from this presentation is that the threat is real. We gave you a bunch of different examples out there. While we don't wish this on anybody, statistically, you know, 8 out of the 10 of you will realize some form of fraud or security breach in the next 12 months, okay, based on that AFP survey there. If you're printing payments in-house, if you're collecting, storing, maintaining that ACH information, if you're sending PDFs, people are, like I said before, you've got a printer at home with your AP team, something's going to happen. I hate to say it, but something's going to happen. Yeah, there's definitely things here that we addressed today that I hope you all took something away. If you don't have the resources, if you don't have the talent to be able to manage this all internally, find a credible third party. There are plenty of us out here who can help you process your payments independently, take that work, take that liability off of your plate, which will lead me here just real quick, a brief introduction to us, and then one more poll question, and then I'll be happy to open this up for Q&A. But Paymerang, again, we are one of those third-party vendors, and very simply put, we do for your accounts payable what ADP has done for payroll, or whatever payroll company you use. Send us a file, tell us who to pay, how much, remit, give us the money, we go do all the work. We take tremendous efficiency gains for you, significant security. We have the PCI, we have the NACHA, we have the SOC 2, we have the OFAC, we have all of that positive pay all built in. We distribute your payments, we do the reconciliation. You never have to pay us for it. Very simply put. Again, it's not salesy. So, as the director of sales, that's hard for me. But with that being said, one last poll question, and then I'll be happy to open this up. If you'd like to learn more, we'd be happy to chat with you, and then we'll move on to Q&A.
A couple of answers just still coming in. And we are winding down. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
All right. About a third of you, and we'd be happy to have that conversation with you. Here's my contact information here. Again, since I'm the Vice President of Sales, Mike Kroll is our hospitality industry expert. Works with a number of hospitality organizations across the country, and I will be happy to share his information with you as well. With that being said, Victoria, open it up for any questions, chat, voice, feel free, ask away.
So John has allowed enough time for us to have some discussion here. So you may unmute yourself and ask directly to John, or you also can submit a question in the chat, and I am happy to ask on your behalf. And I do have a question that has come in. So, we are all at a distributed workforce at this time, or many of us, and we pay via checks quite often. How do we encourage our vendors to go with electronic funds versus paper checks?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a phone call and it's a conversation with them. Again, the biggest piece there is verify first, right? Vendors' fraud flags are waving just as high as everybody else's are. So you want to pick up the phone and you want to have a conversation with them. Here with us, and that's part of our program, is we pick up the phone, we say, look, we want to get rid of paper checks. They're out of date, they're very risky, we can get you your money quicker. Would you be willing to accept either a card payment or an ACH payment? A lot of vendors, like I said today, are moving towards electronic receiving methods because they don't have the people like you're all remote, the vendors the same way. And so vendors are more willing today to take electronic payment because let's be honest, they get their money quicker. It's more secure for them and they don't have to go to the office to pick up checks and process them. But it's a conversation and that takes time. I understand that, but it's a great conversation to have.
Okay. We do have another question that has come in. What is the verification process that I should ask for at our company bank?
Verification process you should ask for at your bank. One is it's called positive pay. I believe that's where the question is going. Positive pay is a tremendous service. Majority of banks offer it. There is a charge to it from your bank, but it's a great service. Highly recommend it if you're cutting checks. Quick example, I had a client recently, before we started talking to them, they had 5 checks totaling over $100,000. They did not have positive pay. They were held liable. They were all fraudulent checks that were cashed against their account. On the flip side, I have another client who had a smaller case scenario, a check go through $2,000 or $2,800, excuse me. They did have positive pay. They were not held liable. So it's a tremendous service. Highly, highly recommend it. Even if you continue to do it in-house, even if you go with a third-party organization like Paymerang or any others out there, I still highly recommend it because you'll still have some in-house checks that you'll cut. And I hope I went in the right direction with that question.
Victoria, I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, John, so a lot of organizations have to have multiple check signers. How, what's the solutions around that in today's electronic payment world?
Yeah, most electronic organizations like Paymerang, we're going to have multiple authorization processes, right? So you may have one signer up to, or one approval up to, let's say 10K, someone from 10 to 50K, someone from 50K plus. Most organizations out there in that third party world have the capability to be able to put workflows in based on that check number. For us, I'll just share, that person who's under 10K, they get an email, they can log in from their phone, from tablet, PC, what have you, take a look at the payments, click approve, and then, anything over that amount will go to, those emails will go out, same thing, same with the 50K plus. But most organizations out there have the workflow built in based on those approval processes. So they can mirror your check signing capabilities.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. So, is there a way that consumers can protect themselves from credit card fraud? I have a husband who travels a lot for business, and I don't put hardly anything on his card because his card gets compromised so much. So, is there something that we can do to help protect ourselves from that a little bit better?
Yeah, so on the consumer side, it's really the same thing. Most credit card companies out there will give you the ability. I bank with USAA. At any point in time, if I'm making an online purchase, I can go to USAA site and get a single use virtual card number that comes out of my credit card. So if you're doing online shopping, if you're booking those plane tickets, things of that nature, again, get that quick number from the credit card company. It's usually right off their site. Key that in opposed to your normal card. Turn on alerts. Interestingly enough, right before we started this, I got a text message from one of my accounts that someone charged a penny to it, and I have no idea who they are. So right after this call, I'll be picking up the phone and calling them. But those things happen. Turn on alerts. Use the virtual cards built in. For everyone's basically on the chip path today. Make sure that your wallets or handbags have the RFID protection to it, so people can't walk up and scan your back pocket and get your information. Y'all are being so easy on me today. This is
I know. There's a lot. They're being quiet.
for a Thursday afternoon. This is fantastic. I must be really good at what I do. Anything else, folks? All right. Well, my contact information is on the screen. Feel free to reach out to myself. You want to shoot me an email, give me a call. Happy to talk more specifics about your organization, anything that we touched today. But again, we certainly appreciate you all taking the time this afternoon / morning, depending on where you are, to jump on. We hope you got at least a few good nuggets out of the conversation. Thank you, HFDP, sorry, too many acronyms, for hosting this afternoon and having us. We certainly greatly appreciate it.
Okay. So, thank you, John, for the great presentation and the knowledge sharing, and for Paymerang sponsoring today's session. Cyber High Tech is rapidly approaching and scheduled for October 27th through 29th, and registration is open. It is at an excellent price point. So, you know, register to join us, and also share with colleagues. And this is a good time to get a taste of high tech if you've never been. And once again, just one more thank you to Paymerang and John, and thank you as we close today's HFTP webinar.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, John.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Take care.